everyone. In this lecture, we are going to be covering Chapter 8, which is going to be dealing with lipids and biological membranes. The word lipids comes from the word lipos, which means fat. Understand that the biomolecules that are part of this family, structurally, they're not going to have many functional groups or one functional group that defines all of them. What they have in common is the property of being soluble in organic solvents, but not in water. What that implies is that lipids are nonpolar molecules. Understand that they are an important feature of cell membranes, fat-soluble vitamins, and steroid hormones. So as I was mentioning at the end of the previous slide, there are many roles that are part of why are lipids so needed in biological system. In addition to the ones that I presented at the end of the last slide, other ones include energy storage, protection and insulation of neurons, structures of cell membranes, and chemical signals like sex hormones. So understand that the sources of lipids in nature come from plants, nuts, milk, cheese, and they all come, the majority of them are going to be triacylglycerols. In a few minutes, we're going to explore what a triacylglycerol is. There's a small portion of these lipids that are going to be phospholipids, and even a tinier percent is going to be those sterols or steroids. So these sterols is another word that we can utilize for steroids. So in section 8.2, we are going to be studying the chemical natures of lipid types. So as you can see, lipids can be divided into two large families, fatty acids and steroids. The fatty acid family can be subdivided into waxes, triacylglycerols, glycerophospholipids, sphingolipids, and one that is not illustrated here but is going to be addressed in the slides is going to be glycolipids. So the first one that we are going to be discussing is going to be the family of fatty acids. Now, a fatty acid, as you can see the structure of oleic acid, we have a way in which we can define how to write the nomenclature for it. So understand that when it comes to writing the nomenclature for a particular fatty acid, the nomenclature states that you need to put the number of carbon atoms, then you're going to put 2 dots, the number of double bonds, the symbol omega, which it just stands for double bond, and then the position of the first double bond in the molecule. So for example, for oleic acid, by looking at the nomenclature given, understand that the 18 means that this fatty acid has 18 carbons. It has 1, so this is number of carbons. This is the number of double bonds. Omega just means double bond. And 9 means that that is the first carbon in that carbon-carbon double bond. Now, one of the things that I should highlight is that when we're numbering the specifically, and I'm just going to highlight it in green, this carbon for the omega, understand that different from when we are naming carboxylic acids, we are going to be numbering these fatty acids starting from the end that starts in the CH3, going all the way up to the carboxylic acid. When we are naming carboxylic acids, we start the other way. So this is one distinction when it comes to distinguishing this type of nomenclature for fatty acids. Now, there are some common saturated fatty acids, and they are outlined in the following slides. When it comes to this, I require you guys to know okay, the name of fatty acid, number of carbons, structure, and if they are saturated versus unsaturated. And we are going to be discussing the definition of unsaturated in a few moments. So as you can see, this is your list of saturated fatty acids. The reason why we know these fatty acids to be saturated is because saturated fatty acids have the maximum number of carbon-hydrogen bonds that a carbon atom can hold. So, as you can see, here we have all carbon hydrogens in any of these, okay? So, when it comes to this, as you can see, the 4 examples that you guys are responsible for knowing are lauric acid, myristic acid, palmitic acid, and stearic acid. Now, understand also that one of the important things to remember in biochemistry is to know the functional groups that are present. Fatty acids, the reason why they get their name is because they contain a carboxylic acid. And I'm just going to highlight it in purple. So as you can see, this is the carboxylic acid functionality in your fatty acids. So these are the uncommon unsaturated fatty acids. And what makes something an unsaturated fatty acid is that it contains one or more carbon-carbon double bonds, okay? So as you can see here, we have monounsaturated because they have one double bond, and we have polyunsaturated because they have more than one, okay? So your unsaturated fatty acids, as you can see, are palmitoleic acid, oleic acid, linoleic acid, linolenic acid, and arachidonic acid. One of the things that you guys need to be aware of is that when it comes to the determination of the type of bond that it is present in each one of these, meaning along the carbon-carbon double bond of any unsaturated fatty acid, if we distinguish between cis and trans, these are always cis. So the majority of the unsaturated fatty acids that we have in nature are going to be cis. So understand that when it comes to fatty acids, another one of the purposes is that they are produced in some cells, and specifically prostaglandins are fatty acids that are produced in the body in order to have a signal for inflammation. So this is one of the other roles that we have for fatty acids when it comes to signaling. So understand that arachidonic acid specifically, it's going to be turned into what is known as a prostaglandin. And these prostaglandin is what it results in pain, fever, and inflammation when we get hurt. Now, the use of analgesics is to prevent the formation of this prostaglandin molecule. As I just mentioned, when it comes to the fatty acids that are found in nature, as I illustrated from the table, most of them are cis, and the ones that we find in nature are cis. But understand that even though almost all naturally occurring unsaturated fatty acids are going to be in cis form, okay? We are going to explain in a minute how trans fatty acids are found. Understand that it is very important to note that the body cannot make many polyunsaturated fatty acids, so we must obtain them from our diet. And any biomolecule that we must obtain from our diet because we cannot make it is called an essential biomolecule. And in this case, the essential fatty acids are going to be the polyunsaturated fatty acids.